Tomorrow marks 50 years since Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first people to walk on the moon.
Before Neil Armstrong wrote his name in the stars, he spent over 3 years pushing his body and mind to the absolute limits. He went on epic adventures, ate gourmet astronaut diet of dehydrated food, and learned to sleep on the go. But it wasn't all fun. There were many challenges he faced both before and after the historic Apollo 11 mission. So let's take a look at the untold challenges Armstrong faced and the secrets he hid. Rigorous training for microgravity. Neil Armstrong spent more than 3 years preparing intensely for his historic mission to the moon, focusing extensively on adapting to microgravity conditions. One of the most challenging ways along walls, getting accustomed to the altered sense of balance and coordination needed on the lunar surface. This training was crucial for tasks like descending the lunar module's ladder and exploring the moon's terrain. Armstrong also followed a strict diet and sleep schedule to prepare his body for the conditions of space travel. Knowing that he would have to rely on dehydrated beef and vegetables packed for the mission, he adjusted his eating habits on Earth to get used to these foods. Maintaining a disciplined sleep regimen helped him ensure he would be alert and ready during the mission, when rest periods were limited and sleep might be challenging. Diet and sleep regimen. Armstrong's diet and sleep regimen were essential components of his preparation for the mission. Focusing on maintaining optimal health and adapting to space conditions, he adhered to strict routine but also minimized the risk of digestive issues during the mission. Eating dehydrated foods on Earth allowed him to become accustomed to rehydrating and consuming them efficiently, an important skill when every moment counts. Sleep was another critical aspect of his regimen. The irregular sleep patterns caused by space travel, including disrupted circadian rhythms and the challenges of sleeping in microgravity, meant that Armstrong needed to be as prepared as possible. He maintained a disciplined sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at consistent times each day. This routine helped regulate his internal clock and ensured he was well rested, enhancing his alertness and cognitive function, both vital for the complex tasks he would undertake. Survival training. Back in the 1960s, astronauts had to be ready for any possible scenario, including unexpected, and build shelter with minimal resources. Skills like navigation without landmarks and signaling for rescue were crucial lessons in these arid landscapes. Armstrong also trained in dense, tropical jungles, learning to deal with high humidity, heavy rainfall, and the challenges of thick vegetation. He was taught how to find edible plants and safe drinking water, as well as how to avoid dangerous wildlife. Building shelters from natural materials and using the environment to his advantage were key survival tactics. Open sea training prepared him for the possibility of splashdown landings miles away from recovery teams. Armstrong practiced exiting spacecraft while in the water, deploying life rafts, and using survival gear to stay afloat and protected from the elements. Managing limited regions. Geological studies. Understanding the moon's geology was essential, as Armstrong would need to collect samples and make observations that could offer insights into its formation and history. To equip himself with the necessary skills, Armstrong engaged in extensive geological training alongside professional geologists. One of the key locations for his training was the Grand Canyon. The vast and varied rock formations of the canyon provided an excellent environment for studying geological strata and processes. By examining the layers of rock, Armstrong learned how to interpret geological history and recognize different types of rocks and minerals, skills that would be vital on the lunar surface. Armstrong also spent time at the Nevada National Security Site, formerly known for nuclear testing, but rich in ancient volcanic forms, offered a terrestrial analog to the moon's mare regions, which are vast basaltic plains formed by ancient volcanic eruptions. By traversing these rugged terrains, he gained experience in navigating and working in environments similar to what he might encounter on the moon. Armstrong also learned how to identify and collect rock and soil samples methodically. He practiced using geological tools like rock hammers, sample bags, and documentation equipment. Emphasis was placed on selecting samples that would be most valuable for scientific analysis, ensuring that the limited capacity for lunar material was used effectively. Pre-launch preparations. In the days leading up to the launch on July 16, 1969, Armstrong, along with his crewmates Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, underwent extensive gastrointestinal activity during the critical phases of the mission. The goal was to reduce the likelihood of needing bathroom breaks at inconvenient times. After breakfast, Armstrong suited up in his custom-fitted spacesuit. Technicians assisted him in donning the suit, carefully checking for any leaks or malfunctions. The suit was essential for life support and protection in the harsh environment of space, so ensuring its integrity was paramount. Once suited up, Armstrong and his fellow astronauts were transported to Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center. Upon arrival at the launch pad, they took an elevator up to the command module atop the massive Saturn V rocket. Armstrong was the first to enter the spacecraft, taking his position in the left-hand seat. The crew conducted final systems checks, verifying communications with mission control and ensuring all and methodical approach contributed greatly to the efficiency of these final moments. Journey to the Moon. After a successful launch, the spacecraft entered Earth orbit, circling the planet once and a half, while systems were checked and prepared for the next phase. The crew then initiated the translunar injection, a burn that set them on the correct trajectory toward the Moon. This maneuver was crucial as it transitioned them from orbiting Earth to traveling through space toward their lunar destination. The journey took about 3 days, covering roughly 240,000 miles. During this time, the astronauts carried out regular system checks to ensure everything was functioning properly. They also conducted observations of the Earth and Moon, taking photographs and making notes that would be valuable for both navigating one informed and addressing any minor issues that arose. As they neared the Moon, the crew prepared for lunar orbit insertion. This required another engine burn to slow the spacecraft enough to be captured by the Moon's gravity. Successfully entering lunar orbit was a critical step, setting the stage for the planned landing. Armstrong and his crewmates orbited the Moon, observing its surface and identifying landmarks that would be useful later. Manual maneuvering and landing. As they approached the surface, Armstrong realized that the onboard computer was guiding them toward a field of large boulders and a sizable crater, an area unsuitable for landing. At approximately 500 feet above the lunar surface, he took semi-automatic control of the lunar module to steer it away from the continued to assist with altitude and attitude information. But the horizontal movement was entirely under Armstrong's control. As the fuel approached critical levels, with alarms sounding when there was less than 5% remaining, Armstrong found a flat area free of large obstacles. At roughly 100 feet above the surface, he began a gentle descent. The dust kicked up by the engine's thrust reduced visibility, but he relied on his training and the lunar module's instruments to guide the spacecraft. Finally, with less than 30 seconds of fuel left, the Eagle touched down softly on the lunar surface. Armstrong calmly reported back to Mission Control in Houston. "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." This message signaled that they had achieved the first manned landing